to another episode of Ask an Assistant, the podcast for executive assistants like you and me and the people that love us. I'm your host, Jess Lindgren. Let's get to work. First and foremost, I really need to apologize for having missed an episode a couple of weeks ago on what ought to have been, looking at the calendar, May 28th. Things are really ramping up work-wise, but in the spirit of accepting things as they are and moving on, not beating myself up too much the way I would have even as soon as recently as 8 years ago. I am here to say I am so sorry for having missed a week here on the main feed and regrettably 2 weeks on my bonus content on Patreon and Substack. Yikes. But I am sitting pretty to be scheduled ahead of time for the next few episodes on the main feed, setting up a better process for making sure that the weekly bonus whoops and or win of the week, the whoopsie and or win of the week episodes go live on time. Following my work commitment in Orlando this weekend, I have plans to spend a few days just doing a solo retreat. I'm holing up at a hotel, no cats, no house chores, no husbands, none of that stuff, just solo time, me and my business, taking some time to really set some processes in stone, to spend some time getting ahead on episodes. That's something that I have been working toward since getting the podcast back on its feet. But haven't made a lot of headway toward being scheduled super far out as I would like to. And that's definitely on me. So again, very much here to apologize. Hope that you have all missed me terribly. I hope that you are already eagerly anticipating the next several weeks worth of episodes that are yet to come. And all that being said, on with the show. Today's question comes from esteemed colleague Patricia, who asks, "Hi Jess, I have been given a training and development budget in my new role and was wondering if you have any courses or events to recommend." Patricia, I'm so glad that you asked. First things first, anybody out there listening, I would love to hear from you. askanassistant.com. You can lay your questions on me there. If you email, if you message me on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, I'm just going to ask you to go to the website. Please just jump through my minimal hoops. I don't even ask that you verbally record your questions anymore using SpeakPipe. Feel free to fill out the little Google form, leave your notes there, but askanassistant.com. I would love to hear from you now and always. And Patricia, back to your question. I am so super glad that you asked and so super impressed with your employer, that they are recognizing the value that you bring to the organization and the additional skills and other things that you can bring even further by investing in your career development. So high five to your executive and or CFO, whoever it is controlling the purse strings and okaying that budget. I would like to start with one event that I can wholeheartedly recommend. It's one that I have personal experience with, and it's coming up soon, the Minnesota Business Partnership Executive Assistant Conference. Back in, let's say 2009-ish, maybe a little earlier than that. I was part of the planning committee for the first couple of events and have stayed loosely in touch with Katie Nada over the years. She's still with the Minnesota Business Partnership and puts on an absolutely incredible event, from registration to check-in, day of event, meals and sessions to the end of day networking. The Minnesota Business Partnership Executive Assistant Conference is an absolutely top-notch experience. The time spent in the venue alone is worth the price of admission. The Minnesota Club, the Minneapolis Club rather, not the Minnesota Club, the Minnesota Business Partnership puts their event on at the Minneapolis Club, and it is absolutely the best. Just very white glove experience, way above and beyond anything that you could possibly be imagining. Katie is so thoughtful and wonderful and really pulls some great people from the community in to help her make it happen, whether that's people on the planning committee, people presenting in sessions, people participating in panels. There have been some really great executive with their assistant panels, and we all know how challenging that can be, getting your executive and or yourself out of your regular routine to come somewhere to put on a presentation. So yeah, Katie just does phenomenal work. The event is coming up. There will be a link to the event in the show notes for this. It is a sign up through Eventbrite. The event is Thursday, June 20th, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Time. I don't believe they are offering a virtual option, but if you are local to Minneapolis, if you feel like taking a trip to Minneapolis, June is actually a very fantastic time to be in my home state and favorite city. Think about it. Minnesota Business Partnership. Again, Katie and her team really pull out all the stops to give you a great experience. And as people like me, people like all of you listening, we've all put on some events in our day and time, and it is really nice to feel taken care of, and like a lot of thought was put into making a great experience for you, the person who usually does all of that thought putting into event work. So really think about checking it out. Minnesota Business Partnership Executive Assistant Conference happening at the Minneapolis Club Thursday, June 20th. If today is June 11th, that's coming up soon. So get your tickets. I also did a little bit of digging into a few other events. In no particular order, this is what I came up with and some of my thoughts. The Administrative Professionals Conference, it's apcevent.com. Again, I'll put a little link in the show notes to this event. No affiliation with any of these, no kickbacks, no affiliate links, anything like that. Purely sharing the information. This year's event is happening in Colorado. It's October 27th through the 30th, which is a decent chunk of time. This year's theme, I don't know that I've attended enough events over the years, or maybe I've just never noticed events having a theme, but a lot of these administrative conference options that I found involved a theme. And this year's theme for the Administrative Professionals Conference is Interconnected, Empowering Education, Foraging Purpose. The event page promises 3 days of education and connection, the opportunity to learn from professional trainers from their page with all of their previous year speakers. They've gotten some pretty big names like Cheryl Stryad, Aaron Brockovich, Montel Williams, and connection by sharing best practices and innovative ideas with like-minded professionals. So, just looking at the lineup of speakers, it does look like a pretty diverse lineup, which I love to see. For my full-time day job, I work in a very cishet white male dominated space. A lot of panels and presentations and keynote lineups where it's, 6 white dudes named John. I actually just watched an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where they were talking about hiring the new commissioner, and literally 2 of the candidates were named John Kelly. So just, something that is kind of pervasive and wonderful to see on the speaker lineup for the Administrative Professionals Conference coming up. Very diverse lineup of speakers. Pricing, yikes. The passes for the price for these passes are not cheap. They do include some pretty nice perks like meals on conference days, a really robust looking schedule of events. Events like this, again, I kind of touched on it before, that we are typically the people who are putting on a lot of these events. We are the people who scout the venues, and we're the people who work on the speaker lineup and secure contracts and agreements and make flight and travel arrangements for the people who are coming in to speak at these events. They are not cheap to put on. So if the content is good, the pricing seems really fair, even if it is a little bit of a sticker shock to hop on the pricing page. The ticket prices are exclusive of travel and accommodations. But again, I remember the last time that I was directly responsible for like the bones of putting on an event. So getting the catering proposals and that kind of thing would have been 2019. Since then, I've definitely participated in several conference events, but more in I am strictly responsible for Pat, my executive kind of thing, rather than doing a lot of the like work with the hotels. We're very fortunate to be working with a group that has pre-existing relationships with these facilities, and just, hey, another event, here's our dates, and just a very well-oiled machine. But pre-pandemic, so 2019 would have been the last time that I was looking into specific numbers for catering and things like that at a hotel. A single gallon of brewed coffee was, I think, $128. And so that amortizes out to like $10 a cup, depending on the pour that a person might make for themselves. If they take like a tiny little 2 to 4 ounce cup of coffee, which what conference goer actually does that? Not very many. But even for something super basic like coffee, bagels, and hand fruit, like apples, bananas, oranges, that kind of thing, that kind of spread at a hotel is so obnoxiously expensive. It just, yeah. So again, prices to this conference do look expensive at first glance, but when you see all the benefits of diverse speaker lineup, excellent, top-notch keynote speakers, meals included, also like networking events included, none of that stuff is cheap. So when you really look at it, I feel like the pricing is more than fair. And then a lot of times too, they'll have agreements with the host venue for a discounted hotel rate, maybe even a discounted parking rate if you happen to be local, or if you're bringing in a rental car, just lots of things to keep you on site and networking with your fellow event attendees. The premium pass for this conference does offer some pre-summit benefits like business communications, PACE prep course, event management, and executive operations. Oh, okay. So this is not, you don't get all of those. You get to choose one of those offered pre-day summits. So you pick a track: business communications, PACE prep course, event management, or executive operations, not all four. But that's still a really nice perk. It's a full day immersive course on Sunday before the conference starts on Monday. And that Sunday event includes lunch, a special speaker, and a certificate of completion, which can be really handy for tuition reimbursement, continuing education, things like that. So all told, looks like a wonderful event. I haven't been myself, probably not something I'm considering for myself in 2024, but definitely something for me to think about personally for 2025. The next one that I took a look at is the Office Dynamics Conference. This is officedynamicsconference.com. Again, a link will be in the show notes. This year's event is happening in Las Vegas, October 8th through the 11th. Another one with a theme, the influential assistant. And then I also see the event being called the 2024 Conference for Administrative Excellence, guiding attendees from being an indispensable assistant to a strategic influencer. Interesting. Looking at the ticket page, I really love to see that they're offering the in-person plus elite certification ticket. So kind of like the entrepreneurial sphere conference equivalent of a VIP ticket. They also have a regular in-person ticket, a live stream, and post-event recordings. I think that is a really great investment on the conference's part. It is no small undertaking to make a live stream happen. It is also no small undertaking to make the recordings afterward available. It's a super smart offering for organizations that don't have the budget, whether that's a monetary budget or a time budget to send someone to an event. Setting aside someone time at their organization to stream the event live from their desk, or if you work from home, or fit the videos into your free time as you have time. Those are fantastic options. And truly, again, just the conference making that information available and accessible. Like that's a huge accessibility win, maybe for people who have limited mobility, limited ability to sit on a plane for 2 to 6 hours, depending on where you're coming from, to go to a conference. I mean, I'm literally flying out tomorrow and I'm not looking forward to it. I used to love travel and now I'm just like, okay, I guess. But yeah, just like all of that, it's a huge accessibility win and a huge just serving their community win, making it available at so many different price points, taking the time, making the effort to make the live stream and the prepackaged video recordings available. Just like all of the logistics that go into it, having super strong, uninterrupted Wi-Fi in-house to provide a live stream, making sure you have a good camera person. I did an event once where the camera person clearly had a restless leg thing going on. And so I kind of peeked in on the live stream a couple hours into the event and could just see the camera kind of slowly rocking back and forth just a little bit. Had to go over to the platform and just like check in with the camera person, like, hey, what can we do? You're sitting on this little stage in a pretty prime position of the crowd. Like, we have to build our seating plan around you. This is something that we're making available for our attendees, and the quality is not awesome if it's rocking back and forth like that. Had a similar thing happen where it was a super populated keynote session. And again, the camera was kind of rocking. And so I went down and I was just like, what is going on? Is it like the same camera operator? Who knows? And it actually turned out that just because the room was so busy that folks were sitting or trying to stand on the platform with the camera operator, and the camera operator wasn't like shooing them off because they were focused on trying to get good video for the stream and for the recordings afterward. So just like having to go in, shoo attendees off the little platform, have somebody from the staff hang out, make sure that that was happening. I mean, even just teeny tiny things that you wouldn't think of in advance until they happen to you. It's just such a big undertaking. And again, to the Office Dynamics Conference, thank you so much for thinking about the accessibility piece, the availability to people around the world. Maybe it's not easy to go to Las Vegas. Like, I definitely live in an area that has very few direct flights anywhere. And it's across the country for me. I'm in New York, it's at least 2 flights, if not 3, depending on where I'm going. And so just like having that availability of the live stream and the packaged recordings afterward is so incredible. So high five to their team. It's just, yeah, it's wonderful. And I really appreciate it. Looking at the sales page, they talk about career advancement, increased job satisfaction, stronger professional relationships, enhanced conflict resolution, personal growth and confidence, making yourself, again, I kind of touched on this with Patricia's original question, you bring a higher value proposition when you have continuing education and training, coming back to your company and saying, yes, I have participated in these training programs. I've gone to these conferences that are industry specific for me. Greater autonomy, recognition and respect, it's expanded network. Just like going to these things in person, a lot of times, depending on the size of your company, you might only have one administrative professional at your company, which is definitely my case at the moment. Going to these events is how you meet your colleagues. This is how you get face-to-face time with folks who are similarly minded in terms of career goals, ambitions. Not that we're all like reaching for the same thing, but definitely more, I have way more in common with people at conferences like these than I do at like a podcasting conference even, or any kind of online business conference or anything like that. So just like having that face-to-face time, whether it's meeting folks in person at sessions, whether it's hanging out at an after event networking thing, whether it's meeting somebody super cool and going out to lunch the next day after it ends, like the networking, the in-person networking piece is absolutely invaluable. And then improve job security. That's the other thing that they've got on their page, which kind of ties into the increased value proposition. being able to come in and say, these are my certifications, these are my trainings, these are the things that I've participated in. It's a big asset to the company as well to invest in your education and skills. I'm absolutely thrilled to say, looking at their speaker lineup, another event with a very diverse lineup of guests, both in terms of lived experience and variety of expertise areas. There is a fair bit of overlap between the two events in terms of their lineup. Office Dynamics has a smaller announced roster, while the previously mentioned Administrative Professionals Conference has a very robust list of folks. So I didn't dig too deeply into the actual agenda for each day. It might be something where there's more panels where it's, if you've got 30 people listed on your speaker page right now, maybe it's going to be 2 to 5 person panels for some of those, keynotes for others. And for the Office Dynamics conference, I could also see them announcing more because their event is in October too. So there's definitely time to flesh out the schedule depending on how many people are going to attend, depending on the number of interested speakers applications that they receive. There's definitely room to add a few more people to the lineup. The last one that I found is called SkillPath, skillpath.com. They appear to offer a pretty robust schedule of administrative professional events. Both online and in-person options are available, and their live sessions are in a number of locations. It seems like most of their live events are largely certification programs that promise a certificate and digital badge after completing the 2-day course. It really doesn't get into the full details of what's included in your ticket fee. That was something that, looking at the other two conferences, the Administrative Professionals Conference and the Office Dynamics Conference, their ticket prices were high, but they also included a really detailed breakdown of everything that you get in terms of if you buy the, VIP to the regular ticket to the online live stream to the recordings afterward. Talked about things like continuing education credits. They also provided business case letters of how to convince the budgetary decision makers in your professional life to okay the budget for you to attend something like that. So very detailed, in depth for the other two events. This one, the SkillPath, seems to be a partnership kind of thing between an online university, if I'm reading this right. It talks about face-to-face networking, practical insights, fun group activities, and more, but it really doesn't specify if there's a host hotel, if they even have the venue chosen yet, if meals are included in your ticket price, a list of who the speakers or trainers are. None of that is there, but clicking around on their site, I do see that if you look on the right sidebar menu of skillpath.com, it takes you to a page outlining what to expect. And this seems kind of copy paste in terms of it doesn't seem tailored to each individual event. It seems like they kind of choose a handful of niches to provide training for, and then just have kind of a generic, events may qualify for tuition reimbursement, and you'll need to reach out to your company to confirm. That I can understand because every company is super different. But Office Dynamics in particular, I really like what they brought to the table in terms of outlining their continuing education units. It even says on their ticket types, 1.7 or 1.3, I think were the two denominations for their different ticket options. The SkillPath team does not print any materials, and they recommend that you bring your own device to use an interactive workbook PDF. Personally, I don't love that. There are numerous studies that prove that information is retained better when you write notes as opposed to typing things. The one thing that's really I've liked and come across over the years is that the act of writing requires the brain to be an active participant in the note-taking process, while typing does not. You can listen to somebody lecture at you all day long and you can type, I can type 110 words a minute, but that doesn't translate to me retaining the information. That translates to me being a good note taker. That translates to me, maybe I should pick up stenography at some point. Who knows? For these seminars in particular, it says water is provided, but lunch and snacks, you are encouraged to bring your own. Again, this is one of those things I can get to a point, like coordinating group lunches, especially as a person who has a lot of dietary restrictions. I am allergic to dairy products. And by dairy, I mean anything cow milk related. So like yogurt, cheese, butter, anything in those areas. I'm also allergic to black pepper. I do have an anaphylactic reaction to that. I'm also allergic to propolis, so I definitely try to avoid bee products. It's a lot of work when you're coordinating group lunches, especially you have to be more sensitive to dietary restrictions these days. I'm glad that it's a huge conversation because, again, as somebody with a lot of dietary restrictions, it's a drag to go to something and have them be like, okay, well, now there's pizza and that's it. But with all the other events that I've come across, like the Minnesota Business Partnership, the Office Dynamics, the Administrative Professionals Conference, they're super well produced. I'm really honestly surprised to see something so bare bones. Again, details about the host venues are not provided on the sales page, which I'm kind of two minds on that. It's nice for privacy. Like if I say, oh, hey, I'm going to a training event in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, it's nice that it doesn't just say at the Holiday Inn Express, like for privacy. But I personally do not want to like buy a ticket without knowing the exact address of the event venue. Presently, I live in a smaller city, but saying the event is somewhere like Orlando, Florida can mean anywhere in or around a very large metropolis. Like an example that comes to mind is when I lived in San Diego, there were several areas that were just a few miles from my house, like 5 or less miles, that could take like 20 to 30 minutes to get to, even in good traffic. Like 1-lane canyon roads, year-round road construction due to the nice weather. Peak driving hours meant that I really chose, like I only ended up in actual San Diego rush hour traffic a handful of times because I was really careful. Like if I knew that everybody going from my area to downtown, if morning was that rush hour, if I just waited until like 10:30, 11 o'clock, literally no traffic. I could get from my place to downtown in 15 minutes or less. And that included getting into the car and parking downtown. But if I tried to go at like 9, I would need to budget like an hour to go the same amount of time. So like, I guess what I'm saying here is that it definitely feels like a barrier to entry to me, to have to call customer service, find out the exact location, especially since their what to expect page on SkillPath says that they do their best to find facilities with plenty of paid parking, but some only offer paid parking, and you, the attendee, the person buying the ticket, are going to want to check ahead with the venue to see about parking options. Like the other 3 conferences that I mentioned, the Minnesota Business Partnership Executive Assistant Conference, Office Dynamics, and Administrative Professionals Conference, like those are super thoughtful, super involved events that give a white glove experience to people like us who are usually the ones giving the white glove experience to everybody else. If I'm paying to attend an event, I want someone else printing out a packet. I want them providing me with a little notebook and a couple of nice pens and details about the venue and the surrounding area. Like, I don't want to be the one to have to do all the research. I think that's an interesting choice to put that on your attendees. One person on the host team of SkillPath could put together a packet to share with everybody who attends. But on the flip side of that, as a person who has planned and executed tons of events over the last 20 years, I know firsthand that you can put together the most wonderfully researched and beautifully formatted packet, and people are still going to reach out with questions that have already been answered if they had just read the registration email, if they had just read the packet. So, yeah, all of that very conflicting information aside, I would be really interested to hear from anybody who has attended a skill path workshop or conference, whether it was live or virtual, whether it was you as an individual, or if a team of administrative professionals from your company all went together. What was the experience like? Like from buying a ticket to receiving your certificate and digital badge, as it were. I'd be very interested to hear. I've heard great things about the Administrative Professionals Conference and the Office Dynamics Conference. I have firsthand experience, wonderful, wonderful experiences with the Minnesota Business Partnership Conference. Can't say enough good things about Katie and the event at the Minneapolis Club. So make sure you check that out if it is convenient to you. Or again, think about that trip to Minneapolis. Cannot say enough great things about Minneapolis in June. So some overall high-level thoughts, all of that said. Oh my gosh, we've been recording for half an hour. One of my longer episodes. Congratulations if you're still listening. Hugs and high fives to you. Overall high-level thoughts. It seems by and large that these events are put on by or with considerable input from administrative professionals who often have a lot of cross experience in the event sphere. People who care about attendees gaining knowledge with excellent, like superb speakers and trainers, people who care about their attendees having an above and beyond conference experience from check-in to closing ceremonies. Like, I'm honestly a little bit bummed that I haven't spent more time going to these events now that I've dug into it and researched it a bit. The conferences by and large do provide help in the form of like a packet or a business case letter to present to your executive or budgetary approval person to gain support for the time off and the company to subsidize or fully pay for your conference experience, which honestly you should really be pushing for them to fully pay for it, not just subsidize it. They should be from registration to your flights, to your ground transportation, to per diem, like all that should be covered. This is continuing education. This is something that I feel that companies don't invest enough in, and really invaluable stuff here. Personally, I'm not usually one to buy the VIP experience, but I really love what the Office Dynamics and Administrative Professionals conferences are offering in terms of pre and post event content as a bonus. There's some in-person workshops, online courses, and virtual communities that are very valuable in the administrative professional world. I also see that all of these events offer group pricing, which is great for larger companies with teams of administrative professionals that they might like to send all to the same event. So there you have it, Patricia. I hope that was helpful. I would love to hear from any and or all of you. Again, askanassistant.com. Lay your questions on me. Please, please, please. I cannot stress enough. The only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. I am here to make this a safe, judgment-free zone for you to ask. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Usually, and not usually, but in many instances, administrative professionals might be on their own. You might be the only one in your entire company, or you might be very siloed from other administrative professionals in your company. So just making some of these opportunities to connect, whether it is in person at one of these conferences, whether it's by listening to the podcast. I would love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I would love to follow you there. But lay your questions on me anytime, askanassistant.com. Get up and drink some water, which is what I'm about to do right now. And until next week, take care.